Okay, so here's the thing. It's not like you're saying anything wrong, but that's actually the issue. Your content is clever, it's thoughtful, it's valuable, and it's completely overlooked, okay? And it is because you keep sanding off the edges of really what you really need to say right before someone can actually see themselves in what you are saying. And when you do that, you remove the parts of your personality that actually would have made someone stop, feel you, and actually buy. You can't explain why you keep holding back in your business if you are thinking, this is literally me. Today's episode is for you. In 1991, a clinical psychologist named Dr. Jana Jack developed a framework called Silencing the Self theory. It was built from the lived experiences of women, and it identified 4 specific dimensions of self-silencing that operate simultaneously, okay, mostly below the level of conscious awareness. Now, over the past few weeks, we have been having a discussion about the good girl, about good girl syndrome, and the theme of people pleasing has been discussed. Now, initially, self-silencing may sound a whole lot like people pleasing, but self-silencing is not the same as people pleasing, and I have to make that distinction for today's conversation because, again, the thing is that they are related, but they're not the same thing. So people pleasing is a behavior, right? It's something that you do. It's something, you say yes when you mean no. Okay, you over deliver, you accommodate, you can observe it from the outside. But self-silencing is actually a relational survival strategy. It operates at the level of your identity. It is not just about what you do, but it is about how you have learned to relate to yourself and others in order to maintain connection to avoid conflict. Dr. Jack's research actually shows it is installed early and it's reinforced by cultural and gender norms, and it becomes so embedded that it eventually feels like your personality. And here is what makes it particularly expensive for high impact women of faith like you. Self-silencing does not necessarily look like silence. It actually looks like you being a woman who has put feet to faith. You're booked, you're busy, okay? And you're still editing yourself in real life, in real time, before anything ever gets a chance to leave you. Okay, you'll find yourself still presenting a version of yourself that has been run through a filter, okay? Still silencing what Dr. Jack calls the divided self, the persistent gap between who you are internally and who you present yourself to be publicly. And the resolution, that divided self, is actually not a competence problem, okay? It's documented, researched, and it's a name pattern. And it has 4 distinct dimensions. Let's break them down. The first dimension is the externalized self-perception, okay? This is the degree to which you evaluate yourself against external standards rather than internal ones. Okay. In practice, okay, in practical terms, okay, this is the woman who knows her work is bomb, okay? You know your work is good. You have results. You have client testimonials. You have the receipts. And you still measure yourself primarily by what the outside world reflects back to you. The engagement, the numbers, the DMs or lack thereof, the renewals or lack thereof, okay? The room's response when you walk in, okay? It shows up in your business like this, okay? So you post something and immediately you start tracking the response, okay? Because it tells you whether you are actually safe, whether you are enough, and whether you got it right. You can have a launch that does not convert the way that you expected, and you find yourself spending days processing what it means about you. Not the offer, not the timing, not just, being able to extract data, you receive consistent affirmation from clients and peers, and it lands, but only briefly, because the standard you are measuring yourself against lives outside of you, and it resets every time. Dr. Jack's research actually describes this as the over I, okay? It's an internalized critical observer that evaluates your behavior against social and relational standards rather than your own values. And for women of faith, the over I often gets dressed in spiritual language. So she may say, okay, so you might find yourself saying, okay, you know what? I'm not good enough, okay, but really you'll find yourself asking, is this in line? Is this the right season? Okay, are you sure God said this? The antidote to the externalized self-perception is actually not more confidence. It is a settled internal standard, one that does not move based on what the room reflects back to you. And this is why I hone in so much on the Genesis order, because it begins precisely with being, because being precedes every external metric, okay? You cannot build from the outside in. And this is actually the work that we do inside the Wild Wellth experience. It is designed for high impact women of faith like you who are ready to scale to consistent 5-figure months by simply choosing to become unshakable in your identity, unapologetic in your marketing, and also unmoved in your assignment, okay? Because you can't scale beyond your internal standard. Let's continue. So the second dimension is actually care as self-sacrifice. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. The degree to which you sacrifice your own needs, standards, and boundaries in order to maintain relationships. Now, this one is particularly dangerous, and I've seen this so much in my client work, and this one in particular is very dangerous, especially for Christian women entrepreneurs, because it has the most sophisticated theological cover. Sacrifice is a virtue. Servanthood is fruit. Putting others first is Christ-like. And the good girl, she knows this, okay? She knows all the frameworks, all the language, and she uses it to justify self-abandonment dressed up as obedience. And here is what care as self-sacrifice looks like in your business. So you might find yourself holding the right for a legacy client, not because it is genuinely the right stewardship decision, but because you actually want to preserve the relationship and you do not want the friction of the honest conversation about your current standard. You might find yourself exceeding the scope of your offer consistently, not from generosity, but because your nervous system is not entirely certain that you are enough, okay? If you only deliver the services within the contracted scope, because more always feels like a safer bet than actually setting and upholding the boundary, okay? And so you just cross your own boundary, okay? You feel like if you hold it, it'll cost you the relationship, that it'll cost you sales. It feels like it's worth more than the standard. And Dr. Jack's research is actually really precise here. Care as self-sacrifice is actually not about caring at all. It's about making care contingent on self-erasure. It is the belief that, which is often unconscious, that, okay, love and connection require you to make yourself smaller, that the relationship is only safe if you are not fully present in it. Now, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says, work at it with your whole being. Okay? Unto the Lord and not for man. It says your whole being, okay? Not the version that you feel like you have to reduce in order to fit someone else's comfort, because you take your assignment seriously enough to protect it. The third dimension is the one the theory is actually named after, and it is silencing the self. This is the degree to which you suppress your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions specifically to avoid conflict, okay? And this is not about being quiet. This is actually about the real-time editing that happens between what you actually think and what you allow to leave you, okay? So the suppressive response is an internal one first, okay? And it happens so fast and so automatically that most women who experience it, they experience it as just a preference, okay? Rather than them actually suppressing something, okay? And what this can look like in your business is you going to write your content. It's sharp, it's convicted, it's fully persuaded. It's the real version of your idea. And then you read it back and you soften it. You sand down the edges because someone specific might come to mind, okay? And so the unedited version feels like too much of a risk. And you might find yourself even on a call, okay, doing direct call and response, okay? And you might be in the midst of holding up a mirror to the person something that would actually serve them. And instead you find yourself watering it down so that it's more palatable, okay? And the thing is that you know that you're doing it in the moment, right? The other thing is having a price, saying your pricing in a way that doesn't actually reflect the real you. Your voice disappears, okay, simply because money is on the line, and you find yourself watching their face to see whether you should adjust. Dr. Jack's research is actually really sobering here because the long-term cost is actually a gradual loss of yourself. When you consistently censor your authentic expression to avoid conflict, you actually begin to lose access to it. The real thought becomes harder to locate. The unedited version starts to feel genuinely unsafe rather than just uncomfortable. And the filter actually will become the default. And this is why it is so important for you to be a woman of wealth, a woman of untamed wholeness and regulated power, because rewiring is not just a decision you make once. Romans 12:2 tells us the renewing of our minds is a process, okay? And every time you publish the real version, okay, you say the real number with your full chest, you deliver the direct response, you are weakening the suppressive pathway and strengthening the one that says that it is truly safe for you to be fully you, okay? And this is why it is so important to be in rooms where you are fully seen, where you can't hide, to have access to a coach who can actually spot when you're pulling back, because this is not confidence work. This is truly a matter of consecration. Now, the fourth dimension ties all three of these together, and it is the divided self. This is the incongruence between the self you present publicly and the self that you are internally. Now, if the first three dimensions are the mechanism, the divided self is the cost. It is what happens over time when your externalized self-perception, care as self-sacrifice, and silencing the self operate together without being addressed. The thing is that you know this feeling. It is the exhaustion that is not so much about how you worked, but it's really the low-grade drain of performing a version of yourself all day. A version that is close to the real one, but not fully yet. A version that has been run through so many filters that is simply presentable, it's palatable, it's safe, okay? And it shows up like, okay, you showing up on camera, you deliver, okay? You are semi-engaging, you are present, okay? The content is good, it's decent, right? But afterwards, you feel a specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with the quality of what you produced, because the woman who showed up was the woman who was actually the managed version of you. Okay, you might find yourself in a room like a mastermind, a peer conversation, a sales call, and you're participating, okay? But simultaneously, there is a version of you sitting slightly behind what you're saying. She's editing in real time. She's buffering. She's aware of the gap between what you are actually expressing and what you actually think. Okay. You might find yourself like me. I was telling my husband, or you could be telling your journal or your best friend that you just want to be full of yourself. You just want to do it your way. And then you go and perform yet another day as the version that passed the comfort check. Dr. Jack's research links chronic operation from the divided self directly to depression, suppressed anger, and gradual erosion of access to your own authentic voice and experience. And here's the thing, clinical research has actually connected emotional suppression with GI issues and other bodily dysregulation, okay? The longer the division operates, the harder it becomes to locate the real version of you. The divided self is not closed by performing, by becoming more visible. It is actually closed by becoming more integrated, by systematically reducing the gap between who you are internally and what you actually allow to leave you. That is the work. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27 tells us that we were made in the image of God. Not in the image that was made to be managed, filtered for somebody else's comfort, okay? No. We're made in the image of God, and that image was never meant to be divided. Here is what I would love for you to do right now. I want you to go back through the 4 dimensions that I mentioned: the externalized self-perception, the care as self-sacrifice, silencing the self, and the divided self. And I want you to identify which one is most active for you today in your life, in your current content, in your current client relationships, and even in your current pricing, because naming the dimension is truly the beginning of addressing it. And when you're ready, okay, when you're ready for an experience that is designed to hold you through the emotional and the strategic realities of building your purpose-led brand, to be reminded truly of who you are, whose you are every time your confidence begins to dip, so that your income doesn't. Okay. This is your invitation to join me inside the Wild Wellth experience. If you are at the point where you know that you're capable of more, but you're tired of your momentum depending on how motivated or validated you feel that day, okay? I want you to scan the QR or click the link in the show notes. Founder, the next video picks up exactly where this one leaves off, because now that you have the framework and you know which dimensions you are most active, the next question now is, okay, what actually rewires all of this, okay, at the identity level? And this video right here will answer that for you. And founder, I want you to remember, you can be palatable or you can be a woman of wild wealth. Bye for now.